Welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about the looping objects, object keys, values, and entries. So these are the three types we are going to cover in this video. So we learned about the for of loop to loop over arrays, which remember is an iterable, but we can also loop over objects which are not iterables, but in an indirect way. Now we have different options here depending upon which exactly we want to loop over. So we want to loop over the objects, property names, or the values, or both together. Let's start by simply looping over property names. And so remember, they are also called keys. Now ultimately we'll still have to use the for of loop to loop over the array, but again we are going to do that in an indirect way. So we are not actually looping over the object itself. Instead we are going to loop over an array. So let me just show you that. Let's just say here for constant day of Object.keys. So here we are using the opening hours, and then here I'm declaring console.log day. Okay, let me just see. Here we are getting the Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, right? So here we are getting the same, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So these both are same. So let's look at this mysterious Object.keys. So let's say here the constant properties equals to Object.keys, and here we'll say opening hours. We'll call the properties. So as you can see here, it is printing out here in this array. So indeed here it is an array with these three property names. Okay, now we can use this now to compute how many properties are in the objects. So let's say we wanted to print a string saying how many days the restaurant is open. So let me just write the code here, console.log. Let me just say here we are open on properties dot length, and here we'll say days. So let's see the output for that. So let me just turn this off. So let me just remove this here and type it here. So looping over the properties, right? So here instead of writing here constant days of object keys of opening hours, here we'll say here instead of writing this days of properties, indeed here we get the same output. So that's why I call the variable day, because this array contains 3 days, right? Now let's actually do something cool, and instead let's store this into a variable. Let open string equals to, so okay. So here we remove this console.log, and here we are setting it to the open string. So here the constant open str equals to, here we'll remove the brackets here. So let's say here this is called here the property name. So here we'll write our code. Here we'll say open string, and then here we'll write days. Yeah, this error comes because here we have set here to the constant, right, open str. So we are using again open str, right? So we have to use the let, so that here we get the output, and here we'll just console this outside so that we don't get the multiple. As you can see here, now we got the perfect output like what we are thinking. So with that we are done with the property names, and let's just go to the property values. That's very similar to what we did before. So the end is when we open on 3 days, right? So what if we wanted to call the property value? So let's just say here constant values equals to object.values, and then here opening hours. Here let's console.log values. Yeah, right now here you can see the output. So here we are getting the opening hours, as you can see here. Now let's just take a look at the values. Indeed, they are exactly the three values that we specified right here, right? So let's just say here so here we got the three values, right? So open 12 and close 22. Here we got this one, right? But before we had the keys and now we have the values, and there no need to now loop over them again because it's going to work exactly same as here. Now let's just take a look at here at these values. Indeed, they're exactly the three values which we declared here, as you can see here, right? So before we had the keys, now we had the values, and there no need to now loop them over again. It is going to work exactly same as here. So the entries return the index number and the element itself. So we are going to do something similar on objects, and that will also return the key and value. Okay, it will work differently on objects because it's not going to be a method, and that we call on the object itself. So here we had the menu array, and then we did the menu array dot entries, but now here we do it differently. So let's just say here the entire objects. So let's declare here this in the constant entries. We'll set this to object.entries, and then here we want the opening hours, right? And then here we'll console.log entries. Let's just see the output. And as you have might expected, and now we get an array. So all of these keys, values, and entries basically transform the object into an array. And then here we have the first the key and then the value. All right. So now we can use this to basically loop over the object. So here we have open and close. So that's exactly we defined here as well. So that's basically going to loop over the object. Here we'll write the code for constant x of entries. So for that, here we'll say console.log x. Here we are getting the output C. So let me just turn this here off. See, now you can see the output clearly. See how it is returning. Thursday, it is showing here opens and closes time, and it is showing everything here in detail, right? Similarly for Friday and everything. Now we have each key and each value. Now we want to log to the console like string like this. So let's just log to the console. Here we'll say on key, we open at and close at. So here we get error because here we have to change here for constant instead of x. Here we need to write, here we have to declare in the array format. Here we'll say key comma, and then let's just open brackets, open and close, remove this x. As you can see here, now you are getting your perfect code. So on Thursday we open at 12 and closes at this date. On Friday, see here, now it is getting like what we have declared in the string key, and here this open and close, here it is the value which we know is the object. We can basically destructure it. So by the value destructuring it, so we just returning here open and close. So the two variable names inside of the object, open and close, therefore we get this destructured, and it works. So this part here is necessary because the value itself is an object. So this open and closes. Okay, And of course you could give them the other names. For example, if you give here instead of key and just call it a day here, so just what you have to do here is change here the day. So you could just change, but you'll get the same output. Okay, and we could use any name that we want, and that's awesome. And so we are doing a great progress here. So just keep on practicing what you are learning. So that's it for this video.